All right, it's Taylor Rick. It's been a long day. It's not Monday, as you can tell. It's Tuesday, and I'm posting this late. Did a lot today. Did a lot in the game today as well, and now I'm tired as fuck. So, yes, I'm cussing again in the first few minutes. That's the way this goes. Welcome to Echoes of New Eden, another short. I'm Taylor Rick. As I said a minute ago, I'm going to repeat myself because I'm, 3 sheets to the wind. A couple of updates from last week's short. First thing on the Dormant Realms. I did run the title lock first thing that morning as soon as the server came back up and we can get 4 guys in there. So there are some things that have changed in my thinking about how I would run things for the title locks, as well as how I've ran the Before the Abyss. And of course, we're about ready to get Law of the Deep out, which is going to have carriers and dreadnoughts in them. And I cannot wait to try that and show you the footage. That'll be the next thing that I do. But the thing that I learned on the Dormant Realms, 2 things. One, with Title Lock, if you're going to use a Nightmare, which you should, that's like the number 1 ship that must be in every fleet that goes into these things until you get to the Law of the Deep, which is going to be capitals, is a Nightmare, but without a bubble. The bubble is useless. Don't do the bubble. I switched to where I have 1 cat battery just in case, and I have 2 webs and a NOS. Because I still have the Nightmare at 0. Everything else is range, or somewhat range. I mean, it kind of goes back and forth on which way it works the best. I mean, a Nightmare and 3 Balgorns is really fun. A Nightmare and 3 Vindies is really fun. But, of course, you can do this in a variety of ways. I know a lot of people are upset over the last week about the fact that it's not restricted to just cruisers. But if they would have come out and done that, then everybody would have been bitching that they can't use their battleship. Just like we were bitching that we couldn't use our capitals. But, hey, guess what? We can. So maybe the imprisoned in silence means it'll just be cruisers. Who knows? I was surprised that they're going to let capitals into this thing. It's amazing. So, Title Lock. Best fleet comps look like Nightmares with no bubbles, and faction battleships of your choice, which is pretty much, the other 4. Carriels, Vindies, Balgorns. Before the Abyss is totally different with the way they do it, and I think they screwed it up, honestly, because you can do it in 4 minutes or less. And you can do it at range, and you can snipe with 3 APOC strikers and a Nightmare, in which case I've seen some people use bubbles around the APOCs with a Nightmare so that the damage is lessened. And I've seen people just not even do that and just go in with 4 APOCs and try to time it. So, but really it's APOC strikers. So that is the quick update on how you run those 2. They're a little different. I can't wait to do the Law of the Deep. I'll definitely record that and post that up as well. Going to have a lot of fun. Okay, now let's get into what I was going to talk about today, which is not going to be carriers and ratting. It is going to be implants. I've seen a lot of disinformation going on around about the implants themselves, and I've seen a lot of confusion about how they work, about where you get things, what means what, how everything kind of comes around. So we're going to do a quick dive into that. So obviously you go to your implant screen. I have it a shortcut. Get to it your main window, same way, whatever. First thing I want to point out is there are 12 of these things so far, right? But there's more coming. And you can use 2 at a time. So if I have an automatic defense like I have here, I don't have my other one installed. But if I had it installed, let's say it would be, it's this one. I don't have it installed. Anyway, whatever. You can use both of these at the same time. So you can have 2 installed at the same time. And if you want to switch, you can. You just come back over here to this window where this is. It's activated. I don't think you can unactivate it unless you're trying to activate another one. I'm not sure. I don't know what the mechanic is. I probably should have waited until I had the second one in or a third one and tried to move them around, but I didn't. Whatever. So, but there's an instant buff upon installation. It's down here in the corner, right? I just tapped on it. Increase the development level of any implant, increasing its potential. The implant's potential increases the ship's shield and armor hit points based on the sum of the development levels of all fitted implants. So if you have 2 of them and they're really upgraded, these numbers down here at the bottom are going to be better than plus 0.32% and plus 0.32% on the armor, shield and armor, right? Those can go up. I think they max out. Someone was telling me they max out at 3%, maybe 5%, somewhere in there. It's not a huge buff, but that's nice. I mean, if you spent the ungodly amount of time and money, in-game money, to upgrade these things fully, then that's a nice buff. A very expensive, nice buff. Anyway, let's dive into the automatic defense one. So I'm going to go into development and look at this tree. I said this wrong last week when I looked at the levels 1, 15, 30, and 45. You didn't get the first implant and then upgrade it, like the green one and then make it the whatever the color is, and then the purple one and then the gold one. No, that you bought those, and before you installed it, it shows you what those are at the bottom. So like if I go to this one over here and look at view, it's going to show me these again, right? That level 45 is what you get all the way up to here. Level 30 stops there, which means you get these two passive ones. Level 15 stops here at those two passives, at these two passives, and it means you still get 2 chips. If you just get the experimental, you get this passive skill. It's active skill, but it's passive. It doesn't cost you anything. It's always on. You get this for the focused crystal one, but you don't get anything else. Whereas if you go to, there you go back over to here. On this one, it is a level 30, right? It is not a level 45. It's a purple one. Standard, right? That's what that standard right there means. So that means I get it all the way up to here, right here, level 30. I can unlock this and upgrade this to the point to where I get these 2 passive skills. But on top of that, I can put in 4 chips. These chips can be anything you want. It doesn't matter. They don't have to have anything to do with your current implant or any of the buffs that you're currently getting. It is nice that if you have an implant installed and you have a chip installed that has nothing to do with the current ship that you're in, you're going to get a notification that says your implant doesn't match anything. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't cost you anything. It just means when you use it, you're not going to get any buffs from it while you're in that ship until you get into a ship that can use the buffs from this and this. So for in this case here with automatic defense level, it's passive. It's always there. You don't have to touch anything for it. Well, I say I'm wrong. Okay, I'm wrong. I say it's passive. It's always there. It's not. You have to hit the button and then wait for it to reactivate it again. That's what your activation. It's an active skill. You have to hit the button. This one here is passive. Okay, so that means as soon as I get this thing leveled up to 15, no matter what I do without hitting the button to use the implant, I'm going to get this bonus, which is a 15-second duration where my explosion velocity disruption is negative 30%. So attacks from drones or fighters will reduce the target's missile explosion velocity by 30%. Yeah, so that's what I just said. And it's passive, not active. Active means I had to push the button. What does the button look like when you push it? What happens when you push the button? What does this mean? We're going to get into that in just a second. Same thing with this passive skill, micro-tracking disruption. You get these 2 skills passive, so you don't have to do anything. But for this first one, to get them to unlock you or disengage you, you have to hit the button. Right now it's at 13% because I'm not leveled up that much, with a max of 50%. And you can hit it every 45 seconds, okay? I don't know if this means that each one of my fighter squads, which I have 3 of on a carrier, or if you had 5 drones, if it means it's 5 times, or if it's just 1 time per squad and 1 time per drone, or 1 time per whole batch of drone. I don't know. I haven't been able to tell because I haven't seen any results yet. So if you have seen some results and you can tell, please put a comment. Let me know. I want to hear. So, but it's very nice. I like this. And pushing the button is not that big of a deal. You push the button and it uses one of these. It uses a neural activity. Okay, every time you push a button on your implant, this number goes down. So you start with 100, and this keeps going down and going down and going down and going down until you put another one in. Well, what the hell do you put in? You put a neural synthesizer in. You can see right now I have 1. So I'm just going to say, I'm not going to say okay. I don't want to say okay. I want to go to my inventory and show you what 1 looks like and how to get it. I got a lot of bullshit here. Here's 1 right here. Neuroactive supplement. Market estimate's 50,000, which is way the hell off. They're down to 32 million. They were 50, but they're going down, down, down. These don't drop anywhere. I think you have to make these, period. And you make them by reprocessing things. What do you have to reprocess to make them, Taylor Rick? You have to reprocess these. This is the lowest level of a mimetic neuron. This is also a mimetic. This is the second lowest level, deep chain neuron, and so on and so forth. You get these by reprocessing those cylinders, which I don't think I have any at the time. Go through all this bullshit. God, I got so many stupid skins. Stop giving me free skins. I don't want skins. I don't see the cylinders anywhere. I probably don't have the cylinders. Anyway, you reprocess the cylinders, right? So those come from drops. This isn't data. This is implant materials. Here we go. Not the cores. There's the neurons anyway, the 4 different neurons. So you can buy them on the market. Takes 100 of these to reprocess into one of the neural synthesizers, and that'll give you one injection. I don't know how many you have to have for the deep chain and how many you get out of it. Maybe it's still 100. It might be 100 for all 4 of these different types. I haven't bought 100 to see of each one, but I suspect it's probably 100, and you either get like, 1 out of that, 2, 3, 4, whatever. And then you can see where these get really expensive because that's really cheap compared to yesterday. These prices just are falling through the floor. Maybe because people don't know what they're doing with them. I don't know. These, on the other hand, I haven't seen anybody, hey, look at that, 15 million, that's better. I might start picking some of those up because we'll go back into the skin, the implant, good God, and talk about this. So, anyway, I have one of these in inventory. This doesn't mean your implant dies after 100 and you have to get another one. That's ridiculous. You see I have 1 out of 1. I say, okay, now I have 100. That's your fuel. That is your fuel to power your implant. And that's how you get them. You get them from mimetic neurons, and you can get mimetic neurons from reprocessing or picking them up, but reprocessing the cylinders that you use for the upgrade, which is these. So you reprocess these in order to get mimetic neurons, and then you reprocess mimetic neurons to get neural synthesizers. You kind of like, I don't know, coaxing it down, whatever that word is. I can't think about it. I'm 2 Heinekens in. Anyway, so, and these drop in the dormant signals, which are about to go away, which I would like to see them stay because that's a nice T8 ADOM that everybody can go run with whatever and pick these up and make some money by repoing them. There's a skill for this, by the way, to increase your repo, and you have to do it on every single character you're ever going to want to use these on or repo these on because, as you can see right here in the icon, they are clone bound. You can't really trade them, you can't really sell them, but you can trade them and you can sell them, like these. These here, you can. There's no clone bound, right? But other ones, you can't. So it's hit or miss. I mean, you can see right there on the screen which ones are clone bound and which ones are not. Even the clone bound ones, though, you can repo. I've repoed all of them. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm right. At any rate, but you can make these as well. So there's the whole thing about all of this, it's nice. It's very detailed. The implants are very detailed. Well done, very well thought out, although the bonuses are huge, and just be prepared for them to be nerfed, okay? Because by the time you get all the way up to a level 45 and everything else you could put in this thing, it's extremely nerfed. So for instance, this is just a level 1 chip. It's not the greatest of chips, but if I was going to use it on my carrier, I would get a 12% activation time, which means that the fighter micro warp drive guides would last 12% longer. Their velocity would be 20% less, but it would last longer. So that's a weird trade-off, right? But if you look at the flight time, how long you need to go, how fast you want to get from one opponent to another, going 5,400 meters per second versus 4,400 meters per second or whatever it was in the Furblogs when I tested this out, not that big of a deal. If you're trying to go from ship A to ship B, and you want to make sure it freaking gets there. It kills ship A, gets to ship B, and kills ship B, especially when you add on top of that, and this is just a level 1. It gets better as you get all the way up to a level 10, especially when you add on top of that, that if you were to upgrade this up, you could hit the button, and also those fighters could disengage that target from locking you and have to lock you again. So, or the drones, right? So you could do this on a Dominix with drones, and you could make a Mercurial. Not only you can get to the Mercurial faster, but you can make the Mercurial unlock you and have to lock you again, which would mean maybe a sensor dampener would work. Oh, by the way, there are chips for sensor dampeners. I have to get to level 10 to get the next chip. There are chips for that. There are all kinds of chips. There's a ton of them on the store. There's just way too many. I didn't want to go through them and read them all. There's a ton of them. But if you start to think about these stacking effects, if you get one of these level 45 implants, I almost called it a nanocore, you can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different chips in here to augment all of this stuff, or not, just add to it different effects. This is going to make long-term, this is going to make who you're fighting against, what they have, what kind of abilities they are able to bring to bear against you, very all over the place. You're not going to have a clue. They could have huge buffs in one area, not in another. They could be able to tackle you. There are chips that allow for the drones to have scram, 1 point of scram. So you can just think of the super massive tackle with 5 or 6 guys like that, right? And 20 drones on you, and they've all got tackle from 95 kilometers. I mean, this is going to change things. So it's a very nice update. I'm trying to think. Oh, let's go look at the actual manufacturing side of things, because this is a good indie update as well, because all of this stuff is going to get used up. It's going to get used up. It's going to get lost. You're going to have to farm it. You're going to have to reprocess it. You're going to have to manufacture it. So if we go into the manufacturing screen, you can see implants. So we can make all these implants, every single one of them, all the way up to that big ass level 45 guy, right? There's your level 45 guy. Obviously, you got to make a blueprint, have the blueprint to make this. But if you had the blueprint, you look. This material is nothing. This needed to be a bigger sink, but whatever. Minerals is nothing. Components, overloaded neurons. That's a lot. That's a lot of farming. That's a lot of neurons. So then, how do you get the blueprint, right? So if we go back and look at it again, here's the compilers. I could make one of these right now. I have a blueprint. It was a drop. Very simple. Minerals are not a whole lot, but it's going to take hundreds and hundreds of these things. Thankfully, one blueprint makes 10, but you're going to need a shit ton. Yes, I'm broke. I know. You can see down at the bottom of the screen, I have 27 million. I'm broke. I bought a bunch of shit. Give me a break. Doesn't take very many mimetic neurons, though. That's easy enough to acquire. At the prices that they're at now, they're falling like a lead brick. Right? And you can make all of them, but you can't make that neural synthesizer. It has to be reprocessed from the neurons. Then on the reverse engineering side, we can go over to the implants, and here's where the blueprints are. So you can get that high-end level 45 blueprint without having to pay for it. You just need 15 of these guys, which I believe... Yeah, none of those have dropped yet. You're going to start seeing those here in this week, I bet, with the carrier ratting. And, of course, these are rare, but they do drop, and the prices are astronomically high for needing 100 of them. Good God, need 100 of them? At $250 million a piece, what is that, $25 billion? Hey, it's $25 billion. Or $100, right? They're $100. To just buy it outright. So, I mean, sure, people are going to get these fast in terms of getting the actual implant to start with, but they're not going to level them up fast. There's not enough in the market for people to be able to level. There's not enough money that you can pay to level them up fast because the supply isn't there. And the supply is coming, obviously, from the dormant realms, the dormant signals that are in the anoms right now. And, of course, those entering into the market. It's really nice. It's really well done. It's well-rounded. If you want to pay, you can pay. I know a lot of people don't like that and don't like the whaling side of things, but frankly, that's what helps pay for the game. And I, for one, think there has been a ton of quality of life updates this year. There's just a whole bunch of little things that are finally starting to fit together now that start to make sense. There's still the problems with insurance. There's still the problems with industry. None of those things have gone away. But hey, guess what? Tomorrow the chat window's fixed already in 1 week. The inability to read the chat, gone. It's scaling. Everything's there. Now we'll see if it works right and all that. I know. NetEase's history is difficult when it comes to this kind of stuff. But frankly, I'm happy. I'm thrilled. This year has been a complete 180 compared to everything they've done last year, with only the hiccups of some of the things that people, well, really, for me, no hiccups. I mean, there's been a few little things of what they do there. Holy shit, missing model, Mario Kart lettering font is coming up again in the belts, Shit happens. It's a complicated mobile game. It's the most complicated mobile game, period. It's also the best mobile game, period, even with all the flaws and issues. I'm loving the update. I think it's fantastic. It's here to stay. Implants are fantastic. It adds a new depth and level to the game. It gives all kinds of things for us to strive for. No, you can't get there instantly. Even if you pay, you can't get there instantly. Or maybe you can pay a shit ton out of your own wallet, swipe that card, and get there pretty quick and faster than others. Well, that's fine. That's your choice. It's still not an I win button. They're overpowered, but they're not an I win button. All right. There's nothing you can have in this game. One guy, even multi-boxing with 4 carriers, doesn't mean he's an I win with a tricked out double implant clones on all 4. That's really rough. That'd be tough. I don't want to face that. But that's not an I win. Those 4 carriers are still going to get wiped by 4 T10 guys who are decently skilled in Moroses. Like the 4 Moroses are going to wipe those 4 carriers, period. It's not going to happen. So, likewise, if you wanted to wipe 4 Moroses, you just have a subcap fleet and a bunch of carriers 400 off. So there's always a counter, right? That's the great thing about this game is there's always a counter. As I experienced tonight in our little FC Rome, that was interesting. That's a story for another day. I am all over the place. All right, let's go back to this. Good times. There's all kinds of ways to make these. If you go up to the easiest ones, this is the one thing I do love. You could go through and have all these level 5s really easy, and they're not expensive. Yeah, it takes 15 torn sleepers, but look what they're going for now. I just noticed this. They're down to 15 million. 15 of those is, I don't know, 150 times another 5. I can't. 215 million maybe? I don't know. I can't do that math in my head. I'm on my 3rd Corona. Now these are expensive. I know I saw one the other day. These are going to be expensive, but you only need 3, right? And these are dirt cheap. Who cares? So you could wind up getting, and it's only 2.5 million in 15 minutes worth of time. So, I mean, you could have your experimental cores and have all those first level ones pretty quick, and then just swap those around based off which ship you're on. That's a really nice addition that you can make these, and all you got to do is have the ISK in game to pay for this stuff when it drops. Now, without even having to run any dormant realms or do anything, without having to do that content. If you're not a PvE guy and you don't want to do any of that kind of content, and all you want to do is PvP, but you want to have a good scope of all of this, you can. Not hard. You have to make money in game, like anything else. But good stuff. I'm looking at my notes again to make sure I haven't forgotten anything. I am 100% sure that I have. If you have any questions about these implants, if you want to know my thoughts on it, please leave a comment in the YouTube. I'll make sure to reply to each one of those. When I reply to those, I'm now putting a TAC Taylor at the end of it so you know it was me instead of Rambo, who I don't think really ever comments on the YouTube video, so maybe that doesn't really matter. But I'm doing it anyway so you know it's me. I really appreciate everybody's comments over the last few weeks. The Dormant Realms video was our biggest one viewed so far. I think it's up to 450. Our conversation last week was a heavy one in our main show, 3 hours long. We had Brisk. Sorry, we had Brisk. Bryak is from Stargate. Sorry. We had Brisk on from the Meta Show, EVE Online. That was excellent. Loved talking to him. I'm watching some of his stuff on Rampage Inc. over on Twitter. Some of it's excellent. Some of it's boring, and I want to just walk away. But for the most part, it's pretty good. Not bad. I do enjoy it. You want to go over there and watch that and get a good idea of how they do things. Let's see. What else was I going to talk about? Make sure that you tune in tomorrow night because it's, by the time this goes up, it's still Tuesday. I guess it's Thursday night. 2 days from now will be our main show. Another great show coming up for you this week. The huge updates from last week are not behind us, as we're having more updates now with the third level. And, of course, what I talked about before with carriers and dreadnoughts being able to go into the dormant realms. That's going to be a blast. I'm looking forward to it. I'll make sure I record that next. But I haven't forgotten about carrier ratting and my thoughts on that. That is coming. We will go over all of that as well. I'll try to fit that in when I can. Maybe I'll do 2 videos next week. Who knows? But tune in Thursday night. It's always a great show with Rambo, Krymsonkyng. Jarmog is now doing a weekly market update for us where we're kind of tracking minerals and PI, which is to say they're constantly falling. Aha, but they're not. You will be surprised by this market update. And we're going to be tracking and following these implant prices and everything else because that's the next thing to watch. There is some money to be made in this. If you didn't catch Scipio's video, go watch that. Maybe it's too late now because by the time the patch comes through and things update and we get the estimated market value, things are going to change. But that was a great drop by him. Make sure you go watch any of his content. Love his stuff. Of course, Deceived and everybody else. So make sure you subscribe. I did notice in this last one where we got up to about 450 views, only 30% of 30% of you watching it were not subscribed. So make sure you do that. What do the kids say? Hit that button, like that bell, ring that bell, like that. I don't know, whatever. You know what to do. Subscribe. Watch the stuff. It's fun. We will be back next week. This is Taylor Rick. Thanks for coming. Echoes of New Eden Shorts.